Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to be doing a 6-month review of the Sur-ron Ultra B electric dirt bike. I test rode an Ultra B at the Red Bull Tennessee Knockout last August when we were down there and fell in love with it right then and there. Had it at my doorstep 8 days later. Needless to say, I'm impressed with the bike. But I want to give you guys an update of how it's been. It's been 6 months. I got 370 miles clocked on it overall. That's not the most miles in the world, especially for an electric dirt bike, but all 371 of my miles have been very unforgiving, single track off-road. Some motocross has been thrown in there. So that 371 miles has been brutal on the bike. There are some bits on it that's been wearing faster than I expected, and some of the stuff that has not worn as fast as I imagined that it would. So we're gonna touch on all that as well. The bike right now is pretty much stock. It doesn't look like it's stock really, but I mean the main components are to it. We got stock brakes, stock shocks, stock controller, so stock power, stock like linkage and bash plates. A lot of it is stock because I think that the bike came really well built. So with that all out of the way, let's get into the review. The stock battery has held up very well. There's been no scratches or rub marks from the battery being inside of the bike and moving around, which was a problem with the Surron Light Beat and the Talaria Stings that I owned. The batteries in those bikes had a lot of play and moved around, and the battery casing would get scratched while you're riding. Surron seemed to have solved that problem with this bike. The battery fits in there very nicely and doesn't move around, and the casing has remained almost perfect. All the ports on the bike are really firm and none of them have done anything weird to me. They are much beefier connectors than the smaller bikes that I've owned, and they have held up phenomenal. Only thing that I don't really like about the battery is the battery percentage display. It comes in bars instead of an actual percentage number. Next up for the bike, I want to talk about the electronics in the motor. So the motor itself has held up really good. It has never overheated on me whatsoever, even riding on hot days. And we've driven it through water, which did not seem to bother it all that much. No weird error signs coming from the motor whatsoever. So the motor, in my opinion, has been perfect. I haven't had to do anything to it at all. So it doesn't get much better than that. Moving on to the electronics, the controller. Like I said, we haven't upgraded it at all. This one's still the stock Surron controller running 12.5 kilowatts, which I think really complements this bike if you've not ridden one of these bikes. I've always said, even on my smaller bikes, running through the woods 10 to 14 kilowatts is ideal in having a bike that's a little bit smaller than a full-size gas bike. So the 12.5 kilowatts on this is just spot on in my opinion for single track riding. So the electronics, the controller, I haven't gotten any error signs from it. Again, no overheating. It's got a couple dings on the cooling fins on it from rocks coming up and hitting it. Doesn't seem to bother it, still runs completely fine. So no complaints with the electronics, the batteries, the motors, none of that. All of that has held up really well, which is awesome. Moving on to the shocks on the bike, still running the stock KKE suspension front and rear. Stock suspension on this bike is really good. I really like it. You can obviously go higher end than what's on the bike, but personally, I don't see the reason for it. Maybe if you were decking it out, you know, if it's pushing more power, you're hitting the MX track all the time instead of single track. I bottomed out quite a few times going to the indoor MX tracks. But for me, I'm 165 pounds, 6'1" tall, and it just feels phenomenal for trail riding. It's set up for single track, and it does single track really well. Touching on the brakes, they are unbranded. I'm not quite sure what brand they are. I thought that the brake pads would wear out pretty darn quick, and I was gonna upgrade them and switch them out. But I haven't had to yet. They still lock up. You can lock them up with one finger. I haven't had to bleed the brakes at all. No punctures in the lines or anything like that. Calipers are all working fine. The frame of the bike has taken some hits as well. No weird cracks anywhere. The only thing that really wears is the powder coat that they have on this frame. And right above the foot pegs where your boots rub against the frame, the powder coating, the green powder coating has worn off. Moving on to the belt drive. So on the Sur-ron Light B and the Ultra B, from your motor, you have a belt drive, which then goes across and becomes a chain drive, essentially. Well, I haven't had any problems with the chain. The front sprocket for the chain has been fine. No wear at all on that, so I'm really pleased with that. But I went to go check my belt to see how it was doing, and the belt had a little bit of fraying on it already, so I was quite surprised. But then when I took a closer look, I realized that the belt was pushed off to the left just enough where it was rubbing my plastic cover, and that was getting the side of the belt to fray a lot quicker than the right side of the belt. So that was a little bit weird. That's one of the things that kind of makes me nervous about this bike. The belt can snap virtually whenever. The belts are very strong and they should last you at least 1,000 miles. Check them frequently and make sure they're not fraying like crazy, because you don't want a belt to snap on you during a ride. I checked all the bearings in it. I honestly thought that the bearings were going to be dried up already. They looked pretty darn good. The headset bearings, they're fine. There's Loctite on all of the bolts and nuts. For the bash plate, no cracks or anything. I hit it pretty hard on any and everything that I find. There's only one problem, and I don't know why it's like this. So the motor is right here, the bash plate only comes down to like right here. So there's like a hole right underneath the motor where you could just land on a rock, boom, stab your motor. That's one thing. I don't even know why the bash plate is designed like that. All they had to do was bring it down a little bit. The seat on the bike has been great. My ass doesn't hurt even after racing this thing for 2.5 hours. Like, this seat is phenomenal. Probably my favorite part. So guys, overall, Sur-ron Ultra B, I absolutely love this thing. As far as 6 months, it's held up phenomenal. Motor, not overheating, it's gone through water, no problems. All the electronics are good. Haven't had air signs anywhere. Shocks, brakes, all that good stuff, all held up super, super well. And right now in the EV world, I think this is the bike to beat. Now, Talaria Dragon's coming out, and that's gonna give this guy a run for its money. But right now, this bike right here is the bike to beat. Be sure to like and subscribe, comment down below, let me know what you guys think. And we'll see you in the next one.